Hey everyone, Stephen here from the Hemorrhoid Academy. So I'm going to pose a question. Does stress cause hemorrhoids? If you're suffering from hemorrhoids at whatever level, could stress being an underlying factor? Well, at the Hemorrhoid Academy, we absolutely believe that to be the case. When you're in stress, you're in fight or flight mode, which I'll explain a lot about in a minute. Your body is under pressure, your muscles are taking vital energy and blood and oxygen away from non-essential organs. That's causing your pelvic floor to be under tension, which obviously is impacting hemorrhoids. It's leading to blocked circulation, and ultimately it's leading to swelling and inflammation in the body. If you want to check out a video on inflammation, click on the link above and you'll see some really interesting information on inflammation. So we believe that stress is one of the hidden triggers of causing hemorrhoids and suffering in people. And the reality is that because when you're in stress, you're in fight or flight mode. So we were not designed as human beings to be in prolonged stress for long periods of time. But the reality is in modern life, and I'll cover all of the sources of stress in a minute, we're under constant 24/7 deadlines. We've got financial pressures, we've got work pressures, we might have environmental toxins in our life. We just have that feeling that we never have enough time, that we're always under pressure. What happens when that's occurring, right, is the body is producing a lot of chemicals. It's producing cortisol, the adrenal glands are under heavy, the endocrine system is under a lot of pressure. And we were designed to be in stress for very short periods of time. So the famous analogy is the saber-toothed tiger, right? As we evolved, hundreds of thousands of years ago, we were only ever then in danger from predators. So the idea was we'd see a danger, we'd perceive it, the heart would start beating faster, the adrenal glands would start pumping out cortisol and adrenaline, and we would basically be ready to flight. So the fight or flight syndrome. And the idea was that just like animals in the wild, right, we would make a burst for safety, be under pressure for a short period in time, and then all of a sudden we'd be able to relax and breathe again and let all of that stress and all of those chemicals, cortisol, adrenaline, just wash out of our body. But that's not modern life. In modern life, we get out of bed, we look at the clock, we're late, we're getting the kids out of bed, get in the car, suddenly we hit traffic, we get a call from our boss, the report didn't come, you get the picture. So we're under constant pressure, most of us, okay? And what that means is we're tightening, as I mentioned, the pelvic floor. We're shallow breathing, right? We're breathing. Instead of taking deep, purposeful, intentional breaths, we're just constantly shallow breathing. What that's doing is it's tightening the blood vessels in the body, and ultimately it's leading to poor circulation, all of which are some of the root causes. And this is the core thing that we talk about at the Hemorrhoid Academy is you need, when you have an end result like hemorrhoids, to look back in your life and start to identify what is the root cause, what could be causing your hemorrhoids. Could it be stress? Could it be inflammation? Could it be a lack of sleep? The reality is the body is a very, very complex, multifaceted machine. And when you have a signal or an end result like hemorrhoids, it's the body's way of telling you something's happening. There's an internal problem. The problem with the medical profession and traditional approaches to hemorrhoids remedies is they only look at the end thing. And for example, they might give you topical creams, but the reality is that doesn't solve this underlying issue, because if you're continuing to be in stress, if you're continuing to be in permanent fight or flight mode, it doesn't matter how much topically you treat your problem, you're not dealing with the underlying cause. And the reality is sometimes these things spark off a trigger or a chain reaction. So when the body is in a normal state, it can handle stress. And in fact, a bit of stress is a good thing. It sharpens the mind. It improves concentration. It allows us to run away from that saber-toothed tiger. But if we're in constant 24/7 prolonged protracted stress, ultimately the body starts to break down. The adrenals can no longer produce enough cortisol, so the body becomes exhausted. You could get adrenal fatigue. It can lead to thyroid issues. It can lead to digestion. It can lead to all other downstream issues. Because as I mentioned earlier, our health is very much linked to our digestive health. And when we're under fight or flight, the body is taking blood away from all non-essential organs, and that especially includes your digestive tract. Now, all of a sudden, if you're in that permanent fight or flight syndrome or under stress, your digestion starts breaking down, which means you're not taking nutrients out of your body, which is leading to inflammation. You can have inflamed gut or leaky gut, as it's commonly called. And all of these things are an underlying root cause. Now, If you have stress in your life, I'm going to teach you a really simple way of identifying and doing an audit. But the reality is it could be one of the causes or the reasons why you're suffering from hemorrhoids. So what are the types of stress? Some of them are going to be obvious to you, but there's then some hidden stressors that mightn't be as apparent for you. So the most obvious one for most of us is work pressures, deadlines, bosses we like or don't like, environments we don't enjoy, politics in the office, just general work stresses, getting to work on time. Diet is a huge one, and we've got a whole video talking about an anti-inflammation diet and the impact of a poor diet and what that means in terms of your hemorrhoids. But what we eat can either be our biggest resource or our biggest poison, especially ultra-processed foods. And I cover that in a whole video, so I'm not going to get into that now. Environmental stressors. So, for example, you might think you're doing a healthy walk every night, but you're walking alongside a busy road, so you're breathing all those toxins in. When you get into your shower, just look at the back of the bottles. If you've got sodium lauryl sulfate on your shampoo and your hair, or shower gel, that's putting chemicals into your body, and your blood or your skin, which is your biggest organ, is absorbing these. The creams we put on our face are full of toxins and chemicals. The deodorants that we use are full of toxins and chemicals. And that's just the reality. We're living in an environment which is full of environmental toxins. We've got physical stressors. So many people that come into the Hemorrhoid Academy are what we call A-type personalities. So they run businesses, they're successful in their careers, they're super busy moms and parents, and they're constantly pushing themselves. And that's causing stress in their body. For example, when they train to exhaustion. If they do sports, or really pushing the boundaries of what's possible. And again, that in itself in isolation can be healthy. But when you add on work, diet, all of these things, obviously financial pressures are a huge thing. And not only just finance pressures, but worry about finance. And worry is one of the biggest causes of stress, and a feeling of hopelessness or helplessness or not in control. That's a huge contributor to stress. Obviously, relationships can be a huge, huge cause of stress. Food intolerances. Again, this is something I mentioned earlier that you mightn't be aware of. You could have unrecognized food intolerances. Me personally, I found out after a long journey of illness and personal problems that I was chronically allergic to dairy and gluten. And when I eliminated them from my diet over a very short period of time, I started to see huge improvements in my health and wellness. Huge one is alcohol. So many of us consume alcohol, which again in moderation is fine, but when drink is taken to excess, it can be another huge cause of stress in the body. So these are just some of them. If you start to think about your life and start to identify, and how do you know you're in stress? You can feel it. You can feel that tension. You can feel the state of stress you're in the body. And the reality is stress is cumulative and quantitative. A little bit of stress is okay. When it starts to get to a point where you've got multiple stress inputters into your life, it's very likely that you're going to have an overflow of stress, which is going to cause all sorts of downstream health issues. So what do you do? So if you're looking at this and you're starting to recognize or identify, yeah, I've got stress, there's no doubt about it, and it could be a contributing factor to your hemorrhoids, okay? You need to look at rewiring your nervous system. So ultimately, stress, from a lot of what I've just described, is either external stressors that you can do things tangibly about, for example, eliminating toxic shampoos and chemicals from your bathroom, taking a walk in nature rather than by a busy road. Financial, you can take steps always to reduce your financial stressors. Some of it is internal because it's your perception, you're perceiving situations to be stressful, whether that's true or perceived. The reality is the same, it's causing stress in your body. So ultimately what we want to do is we want to slow the system down, we want to reduce the amount of stress, and ultimately rewire your nervous system, get those brain waves to slow down to theta or beta brain waves. So one great one to do is box breathing. This is a tactic you can use in any circumstance, anywhere. So essentially what you do, right, is you do a sequence of breath work. You breathe in for 4 seconds, you go, you hold that for 4 seconds, and you really let the breath run out. And if you do that 4 times, just close your eyes. If you're in the car, sit down for a minute, lie down if you can, just give yourself that opportunity. And what that does is it immediately resets your nervous system. It slows your brain waves down. It allows you to just gather yourself and have a moment, and it can be incredibly powerful. The next one is take a walk in nature, and grounding is a huge beneficial way to reduce stress as well. So if you're fortunate enough like me to live by the beach, I go for a walk pretty much every day, and I take off my shoes and I just walk along. Even if it's cold weather, I wrap up and I just get my feet in the ground for 10 or 15 minutes if I can. If you're lucky enough to live near a forest, get out in nature, just go into a field. You know, if you live in a city, find a park, just reconnect with nature. Mindfulness is a hugely beneficial tactic that I've personally used when I was suffering from acute stress. So the best app that I've found is Mindfulness, or Headspace, I'm sorry. Download it. I think they've got lots of free programs on it there. The paid subscription one is also very inexpensive. And what it is a series of guided meditations. So if you're new to meditation, it can be really overwhelming and quite difficult. But basically, if you have mindfulness, if you have, oh sorry, I lost my concentration. Can we just stop for a second? Or can I just keep going?
Yeah.
Can you just put that on silent if you don't mind?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll just keep going now.
Okay, no worries. So mindfulness is a great way of just resetting your nervous system. So these are guided meditations that allow you to do body scans that just take that stress through and out of your body and release it. Progressive muscle relaxation, yoga. There are so many light and gentle exercises. There's just so many ways, and you need to find what works for you based on your circumstance, based on your location, your environment, and find ways of just de-stressing. So ultimately what you want to do, right, is if you have hemorrhoids and now you're starting to identify that stress could be a cause of this in your life, you need to try and manage it. You need to eliminate it. So one of the things that I really recommend you do is do a personal stress audit. Take a pen and paper, look at your work, look at your diet, look at what's in your shower, look at what environmental stressors you could have, look at what physical stresses, maybe you're training too much, look at your financial situation, look at your relationship, your food intolerances potential, look at alcohol, look at all of the potential areas of stress in your life. Start to write down and keep a list and see what is causing me stress and what could I potentially do to eliminate it from my life. And then what you start to have is a start or a baseline for a plan. And what I personally did when I was suffering from acute stress is one by one I started to eliminate them. And over time, I reduced the majority of stressors from my life. So a personal stress audit is a hugely beneficial thing to do. And the reality is your body is not broken. You're just stuck in overdrive. And if you have hemorrhoids, and now you're starting to identify stresses in your life, just do what I was recommending. Do a personal stress audit. Implement some of these tactics. Start to recognize the causes of stressor in your life and do what you can proactively to eliminate them. And even just having that plan gives you an enormous sense of control and power. So if this is resonating with you, now you're starting to see what could be root causes of your hemorrhoids, as opposed to what many people are focused on is treating the end cause. So deal with the root cause, of which stressors can be one of them. Now, if you'd like to look at the possibility of getting much quicker relief from your hemorrhoids, download our free pressure protocol guide, which is in the link below. Click on it, and if you implement the pressure protocol, which we give the complete protocol in this guide, you can see immediate relief from your hemorrhoid pressure and discomfort within a 48-hour period.